interviews, on TV, on radio, anywhere you could, you've warned Americans repeatedly about who your uncle is. As we near the end of his first 100 days of disaster, as I'm calling it, are things turning out just as you anticipated or even worse?
First of all, Katie, it is so wonderful to be with you, and I'm proud to call you my friend and honored to be on your show. I don't like saying I told you so. And I'm certainly am not the only person who has been sounding the alarm, but those of us like you who have been paying attention since the beginning should not. Honestly, I think we have no right to be surprised. And this is all unfolding as we were told it would. And I think the only thing that is shocking, even for those of us who were paying attention, is the comprehensiveness and rapidity with which the United States government and American democracy are being dismantled.
So, Mary, though, throughout it all, you've stayed in the fight. And listen, if there was anybody who could have said, you know what, peace out, I'm going to go kind of, be over here, you let me know. You haven't done that. You've stayed in the fight. You continue to encourage those to do so as well, others to come into the fold and continue to be a part of that fight. What advice do you have right now as we near the end of these 100 days, these first 100 days? People feel kind of hopeless, and all they see are just negative headlines.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of negativity, certainly. I completely understand why people would feel demoralized or hopeless or exhausted or tapped out. But I think it's important to remember that that's exactly what Donald and the Trump regime want. Their onslaught is purposeful. And one of the goals of it is to render those of us who are still in the fight kind of inoperative in some ways. We cannot allow that to happen, obviously. And also, I think we need to remember that this is a long fight. Obviously, what has been happening is horrific and for many people unimaginable. It's going to take a while to adjust to what it is a new reality. We live in a very different America from the one Donald Trump inherited on January 20th, 2025. But just as their plans to carry out the worst that they can manage against us and our country took a very long time, we have time to organize. Now, we can argue that this should have happened already, of course, but there's always hope. There's always hope because there are more of us than there are of them, and our cause is the righteous one. And secondly, we see the Trump regime, it's run by a bunch of incompetent people who do not understand the fire with which they're playing, and they are overplaying their hand. And Americans who don't typically pay attention are starting, I think, to wake up and recognize the new landscape we're living in, and most of them don't like it at all.
Mary, I like to say often that we are capable of walking and chewing gum, meaning we do not have to be focusing on only one issue. We can focus on many. And the one that obviously strikes me, in my core is always the attacks on the rule of law. I am trained as a lawyer. It's something that I believe is being kind of the last bastion of a line of defense when it comes to democracy. And yet it's so on brand for Trump to do that, right? There's a reason why I call him convicted felon Donald Trump. He's a convicted felon. And so when you see these relentless attacks, when you see what's happening with Kilmer Abrego Garcia and the stuff that comes out like on the official White House accounts on social media, your thoughts about whether or not we truly find ourselves in the midst of a constitutional crisis?
Well, Katie, I'm a layperson. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination, but personally, I think we've been in a constitutional crisis since in November 2024, 74 million people decided to hand over the keys of power to a man who is an insurrectionist and a traitor to this country. That, for me, was the original constitutional crisis. Essentially, what happened is that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was rendered completely inoperative. So now I think we have a new constitutional crisis, and in many ways, it is an infinitely more dangerous one because, as you and Joyce and others have said, we are looking at a situation in the United States of America in which nobody, including American citizens who were born here, no longer have habeas rights, no longer have a right to due process. And we are looking at a situation which will lead, of course, to the fact that there is no rule of law in America anymore. And I think we can thank the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court for deciding that Donald Trump deserved an imperial presidency.
For the second time this month, Americans are rising up in mass opposition to President Trump's extreme and chaotic agenda. On April 5th, the demonstrations in all 50 states and the District of Columbia were called Hands Off. Today, there was a push for 50 protests in all 50 states under the umbrella of the 50-51 movement. And let's not forget that all of this is happening as town halls in congressional districts across the country continue to draw big crowds of constituents who range from worried to outraged. The town hall hosted by Democratic Congresswoman Dean of Pennsylvania drew more than 500 people, some of whom waited in line more than 3 hours to attend. An outpouring of civic engagement that moved the veteran Congresswoman to tears.
I am so delighted to be here with you. Pay no attention to the tears. I am delighted to be here with you. When I pulled up here and I saw the line, I couldn't believe it because it says to me, we're all in this together. We care.
And I am delighted to say joining me now is Congresswoman Dean of Pennsylvania. She's a member of the House Foreign Affairs and Appropriations Committees. Congresswoman, always great to see you. Thank you for coming to the Saturday show. So what did you hear from your constituents at that town hall?
Thanks, Jonathan. So good to be with you. And I have to admit to you, it was so good to be with more than 500 of my constituents on Thursday. They lined up, and as I said, I pulled up. I couldn't believe it. It just showed how engaged the constituents of the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania are. They're energized. They're anxious. I have to use that word because they use it with me over and over again. But they are determined to make sure that they're going to hold on to every bit of this democracy, protect it, and to make it stronger. They're very worried about what is going on with this administration. Literally, Thursday, it was 88 days into the Trump administration. And question after question after question was about how concerned they are with the lawlessness, the corruption, the chaos, the uncertainty, the tariffs, Elon Musk, the firings, the unclear path of where this administration was going with folks who don't seem to know what they're doing. But I will tell you, what I walked away with was just such a positive spirit in such a time of high anxiety, a positive spirit of people who are dedicated, who get it. It's on every one of us to be in on this together and to protect and lift up our precious democracy. I used the sentence that Franklin used when he was asked after the Continental Congress. He was asked, Dr. Franklin, by Mrs. Powell, what do we have, a monarchy or a republic? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. It's on all of us. We have to keep it.
Congressman, one of the ways we can keep it is if your colleagues on the other side of the aisle were to step up and be more vocal about what is happening. And I bring that up because an interesting thing happened on Monday. Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, tough as nails, Republican member of the Senate, longtime member of the Senate, had this to say about what it's been like, and particularly for her, under Trump 2.0. Watch this.
We are all afraid. Okay. I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice because retaliation is real. And that's not right.
And so, Congresswoman, I can only imagine that what Senator Murkowski said publicly there is what you've been hearing privately in the halls of Congress, no?
Well, I have to tell you, Jonathan, that very much struck me because I look to the senator. She is such a strong voice. I look to her. I feel like she is steel in the face of some awful battering winds of this administration or years past. She's just been at this a very, very long time. So that struck me at my core, that she would be afraid to use her voice. We mustn't be afraid to use our voice, but frankly, we all have threats. I have suffered threats, and so many elected folks have suffered threats. But I stand next to her, I will tell you that, to say she still remains as strong as she can possibly be, but she reflects what my constituents are saying to me. They are afraid. They are scared. More than 500 people filled that hall on Thursday night. And the most common words we heard were afraid, scared, I'm anxious. But then the common question was, what can we do? So I honor the senator for that honesty, that incredible, honest to be intimate honesty of how she is feeling, because she's in a very bright spotlight. But I see her also as being very, very strong.
One thing that apparently came up at your town hall was the possibility of Trump trying to go for a third term. And you said you fully expect that he will try to weasel his way into a third term. Why do you say that? And what would how would he even make that happen?
Well, Jonathan, I wouldn't have thought he would try to incite an insurrection.
It's just so interesting. You see the unification of Trump's family grievances and the grievances of regular everyday Americans. Because the people that know Trump best, like his niece, know just how scummy he is. Yeah, he had some weird things in his childhood and didn't have the best upbringing, apparently. And, you know, if he ended up just being a normal weirdo, I might feel bad for him. Mary Trump has laid out his psychosis, right? But he's ultimately a monster, and Mary understands that well. But also, the American people are learning this, right? Like, you don't just need to hear it from Mary Trump. You know, this is not, she's not warning us in 2015, like, oh, my uncle's going to be an awful president. People know now, and people are hearing it, right? And so I think it's so fascinating. We've never seen anything like this. Bush's family, I don't think, attacked him. I don't think. Obama's family, I know he had a brother that was a little bit weird, but Obama didn't have, like, close family members attacking him, suing each other. Biden didn't. You know, Hunter wasn't suing his dad. I know Hunter was controversial, but he wasn't fighting with his dad. I don't know. Nothing like this. You might say, well, maybe Donald's just got a bad family life. Whatever. Donald has had so much controversy with people close to him, staff, family, whatever, that it's probably him, folks.